Buddham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
Dhammam sharanam gacchami.
Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami. Buddham sharanam gacchami. Dhammam sharanam gacchami. Sangham sharanam gacchami.
Ladala Major Benji, Shabji Pemo Ladushin, Pumokula Domzem, Doma Yumla Chase Law, Omdare to the Reso, 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 Omdare to the Reso. Dare tu ture soha, 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 dare tu ture soha. Dare tu ture soha, dare tu ture soha, dare tu ture soha, dare tu ture Dare tu dare dare so, 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 dare tu dare dare so. Dare tu dare dure so, 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 dare tu dare dure so. Dare tu dare dure so, 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 dare tu dare dure so. Dare tu dare dure so, 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 dare tu Ture so gewan di nyurdo da pama drama tuju ne dowa chikjama leba. Tiye salam go bara sho. Tashidilek, everybody. I hope you are all fine and singing and dancing, no? I think you have all observed, but what I have been observing is that the time flies soon. Time really flies. Since the pandemic started, it's now nearly 2 years. We have been like a little bit complaining, a little bit suffering, but time really goes so quick. And since we started this particular teaching, few months uh, being gone. So I was really wondering whether I'm holding you too long. But since we have only 1 hour, there's nothing much I can do. But gradually, some of the verses which is coming later doesn't need much explanation. So I will gallop through those verses. Okay, so if you are looking forward to have the teaching ended soon, sometimes it is possible because you have many other preoccupations. But it's okay. If you can come, then attend. If you don't can't, then it's okay. Right? So therefore, one thing that I wanted to say right in the beginning is time is really, 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 really flying. It's not a new thing. It has always been like that. And then within the given time, as I mentioned earlier, half of our life we pass in sleeping, the so-called night. Then in the day, there are so many distractions. Some necessary, like cooking food, washing your clothes, and things like that. The others are just for other mundane activities, which is from Buddhist viewpoint or from the point of view of religious practice are counted as laziness, right? So anyway, we have many areas, especially in today's world, many areas where we can easily get lost and get distracted. So what I wanted to say today is, we cannot be perfect at one go, that is for sure. But at the same time, it is high time that we do some thinking and reflect on the point, what is really, really the most important thing in our human life? I'm using the word human life, not just life, human life. There are small things we need to attend to, that's understandable. But what I'm saying is, what should be our national highway? Just like when you move on a national highway, it's okay to get a little bit sidetracked and have a cup of coffee or a snack, things like that, and go for bathroom. That's okay. But what is your national highway? So here, understanding one's reality, the reality of the self, the reality of the mind, the reality of suffering, the reality of happiness, and then to ponder what is it that is primarily responsible for granting us, or granting oneself and others, a more reliable, long-lasting peace and happiness. So that is really important. Otherwise, you are missing a big thing in your life. As we said in one text, even the cows or goats and the sheep, they're also good in eating a tuft of grass, okay, or doing a little bit of silly jump and things like that. They can also do that. So likewise, we can, if we also get distracted with things like that alone and remain like a, animal. In the case of animals, it is understandable because they don't have this very sophisticated intelligence as we have. So therefore, in our case, in Buddhism, we say make, your human life meaningful. So in other words, it can be stated by saying that make this marvelous brain useful, which distinguishes you from other animals. And as I repeatedly said earlier, human beings are unfortunately are the most trouble maker in today's world because the intelligence is corrupted. Instead of using it for constructive, compassion and other things, we use it for manipulation, cheating, exploitation, bullying, and killing also. So completely misusing this great asset of human brain or human intelligence. So in that case, human life is in many cases worse than animals. Like if we compare ourselves to helpless insects, in one sense, of course, you are much, much superior than that insect. You're a human being, intelligent human being. And on top of that, if you are an ordained monk or nun, having the vows and things like that, and then if you have a Geshe degree or things like that, you're supposed to be much better, of course. There's no comparison from that balance. But if you look carefully, how you're leading your life, it is possible that you might find that actually speaking, you are leading a worse life than that of insect. The insect is, of course, in its own place, very helpless, but it's hardly doing any harm to anybody. They don't have that capacity. They don't do any harm. And it's many of these helpless insects. One example that I can give is like earthworm. Although very helpless, but it is used now in many farms in America and other places to make the land fertile. You see, it does that. You see, so in its own way, it is contributing. So nature has a way of making everybody, making their small contribution, but they don't do much harm. Now, the harm done by human beings is unthinkable, which is actually really shameful, very shameful, very unfortunate. So therefore, we cannot change the world, we cannot control everybody, but we should individually make that effort. In my own case, I will, make my best effort to make this life meaningful and to contribute towards peace, happiness, and harmony of other people. That's very important. No need to talk about big things like nirvana, enlightenment, things like that. So that's why this instruction that Nagarjuna gave to his friend, the king, Gautamiputra, is very relevant. And that's why I chose this text to study together. Each and every verse is relevant. And you can choose if you are unable to understand every verse, but there are some verses which will kind of glare to your face, saying that please take me, adopt me. I will be very helpful to you. So I normally do that. Then I mark it and then I memorize it. It's very useful, very powerful. So do that. Do that. All right. So now in the next verse number 42, it is saying that the verse number 42 is explaining the law of causality in general, and especially the major virtuous deeds and major negative deeds that you should give up, even if you end up committing some negative deeds, but make sure that you don't end up committing heinous crimes or very powerful negative deeds. And in terms of positive deeds, make sure that it is strong one, meaning that when it comes to doing some virtuous practices, the beginning should be good, the actual practice should be good, and the conclusion should be good, meaning that you should develop this wish to do this practice. For example, attending this online teaching. And you should not just come and attend just to count, I attended the whole session, which is good, but not for the sake of counting. You should really look forward, not because this stupid Geshe Lhakdor is teaching, but because the text itself is so precious. Therefore, look forward that you are spending just 1 hour. I'm good. I'm happy that I'm able to spend 1 hour to think about good things, to change my life, to help other people, things like that. So with that motivation and with that kind of happiness, joy, and a smile on your face, radiance on your face, come and attend the teaching. With that kind of motivation, it is said that even when you take one step towards that teaching venue, that is counted as a virtuous practice. Then you also become very receptive because there is delight, there is a joy. So In the beginning, it should be like that. Then when you actually listen to the teaching, then you should remain attentive. Don't let yourself distracted by all kind of host of thoughts that will definitely come and invade. So say no to all of this invading host of thoughts and concentrate on the teaching. Try to understand it. If not, read the text again, ask more questions, right? Then at the end of the teaching, rejoice and dedicate, saying that may whatever good merit that I've earned become a cause for the benefit of all, cause to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. So it is like depositing your money in the bank. If you deposit your money in the bank, most probably there's no guarantee, but most probably it is more safe. And probably you will get some interest also, right? So like that, dedicate, motivation and dedication at the end of any good thing that you do. Even if you say a nice word, rejoice, dedicate. So the point that is being made here is that when it comes to doing something good, something virtuous, it should be strong. Beginning, the actual conclusion, everything should be, if not perfect, but really should be strong based on determined wish to do the practice. When it comes to negative deeds, even if you sleep because of the situation, circumstances, you should recognize it as something that is, wrong. Don't rejoice. So there should be reluctance not to do such a thing. Then even if it happens, then later on there should be repentance. Just like as if you have swallowed poison. If you have eaten poison, then you would never rejoice. You would be full of regret. And that's why in Buddhism we talk about the three negative emotions, the root emotions as three poisons. But we just say it, we don't think they are poison. We don't think they are going to do any harm. But it does harm. All the problems, we can safely conclude by saying that all the major and minor problems that we see in the world today is directly or indirectly the result of primarily these three poisons or host of other negative emotions. All the good things, as is mentioned by Tsongkhapa in his great stages of path, that even if you are going out and you experience a soothing breeze, and you get that feeling of coolness and find some solace, that also comes as a result of your having done something good. So the law of causality, you see, you can happily, smilingly, happily do a negative karma. Okay? But then with that joy and commitment and dedication, and when you do that negative deed, the fruit will be something that will make you cry. And once you have done something positive or negative, you cannot stop the fruit. The fruit will come. The fruit will come. Even nuclear bombs cannot destroy that, because it is experienced on that non-physical mental level. It's not a physical, on a mental level, right? Like in our day-to-day experience also, for example, in the day, if you had some fight or some problem with some people, it's most likely that in the night also you get similar dream of fighting with that person. So that is called activation of negative karma, negative deed. And in the day, if you have met His Holiness the Dalai Lama, or you did something, good, it's also again very likely that you will see him again in the night. So therefore, if we, with the full, dedication, physically, verbally, mentally, with full dedication, just like those people who are preparing for Olympic competition, it's a tough competition, very tough competition. So, in order to enter into that competition, you really need to think about it, learn all the skills, physically practice it. You can't rest properly. Or in other words, if somebody is going to kill you tomorrow, somebody is going to kill you tomorrow, then you cannot sleep peacefully tonight. You will be really thinking about in which direction you should run away, or what kind of support you should seek, from the king or from the minister or whatever, You'll be just focusing, that is called specialization. The real specialization will come when you are interested. The so-called specialization that we do in terms of doing PhD, things like that, we do it because it has to be done, but there is no joy and delight and complete focus, So therefore, the concentration or focus based on delight is so important. So in our case also, it is important to constantly remember that I've today, luckily, almost like a coincidence, I've obtained this precious human life. And even if you obtain this precious human life, as and when you grow older, when you are very small, very young, forget about doing any Dharma practice, okay? You're a, struggling, crying baby for 10, 15 years almost, right? Then you're a little bit, grown up and becomes adult, then marriage and all those things, big distraction there. And then when you grow older, then even if you want to do a lot of things based on your life experience, as and when you grow older, then experience itself will tell you that patience is necessary. Because you become older, you become more patient. Because you have through life's experience understood the fact that impatience is not solution for the problem. Anger is not solution for the problem, you see. But then at that time, your mind is not as intelligent or as sharp as before when you were young. Your eyesight also not as good as before. You start, wearing your spectacles. And then your teeth also starts rattling or starts falling, I mean, all these signs of old age will come. And then if you want to travel somewhere, do some practice, again, your body is not like obeying, not easy. So therefore, it is really important when we are young. I mean, everybody can do the practice. I'm not saying that elderly people can't do practice, but everybody can practice. But the best time is when you are physically, mentally fresh, active, and young. It's very important, very important. Because I've met so many people over the years, when they actually experience the life's ups and downs, then they are compelled to turn somewhere to help. So at that time, the real help that comes is not your relatives or friends and things like that, but your mental attitude, your internal kind of integrity, compassion, resilience, whatever you want to call it. It's so important, so important. Changing one's perspective to the positive side is really, we can say, the solution. So to achieve that state, we need to make some effort, because we are caught within the cobweb of the or environment of the human society, you see. That's why Buddha himself, in one of the Mahayana Sutra, he says, undertaking Mahayana practice is difficult. He never said it's easy. He said, undertaking Mahayana practice is difficult because the Mahayana teachings say, you come this direction, opposite to where everybody is rushing. So you can imagine, now the ordinary people say, are you crazy? Look, everybody is going here. Are you crazy? You are going in the wrong direction. And they determine the direction, right or wrong, judging how many people are going in which direction. Then you will find majority are going in the wrong direction. I mean, Mahayana, the word itself, thinking about becoming Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. Right? So unless we make some effort, with joy, of course, it's not going to come easily. So we have to make some effort. And it's worthwhile to make that effort for one's long-lasting happiness, to contribute to the happiness of other people also. So therefore, in this text, it says, whether it is a virtuous practice or non-virtuous practice, how strong they will be is dependent upon 5 factors. The 5 factors are, if you do something positive or negative, constantly, always, for example, always if you go after killing people, okay, then that negative action will be strong. And then second is intense grasping. Intense grasping. Then the third is without any counter force, meaning that you kill somebody, steal from somebody, and then no regret. You don't take steps to purify it, then there is no counter force. And then your positive or negative deeds done towards people who have higher qualities, like Buddha, Bodhisattvas, His Holiness Dalai Lama, or whatever, So with reference to these people, whatever good, bad karma you do, it will be powerful. And then the fifth is people who have benefited you, like your parents or relatives or whoever. Because of their having benefited you so much, if you cultivate positive or negative emotions against them, again, it will be much more powerful. So therefore, now having realized this, the effort that we need to make is towards the virtuous practice. Make effort towards virtuous practice, meaning that you should always do the virtuous practice, whatever. Always cultivate compassion. And with very strong, intense aspiration or desire. We should not use the word grasping here, but intense wish, liking. And then always cultivating the counter forces against the negative emotions and supporting the positive emotions. Then respecting people with great higher qualities and respecting people who have benefited you, things like that. So this is something that we can practice in our daily life. Take the example of reciting one mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Even if you recite the same mantra, but how strong that recitation will be dependent upon what was your motivation, what was your actual practice, what was your conclusion, right? So in other words, whenever we do this virtuous practice, we should do it properly with full dedication. We can use the word professionalism. Professionalism must be here. Because many of these teachings that the Buddha gave, these are the real trademarks. These days, if you buy a shirt and then it carries a trademark of certain company, then they say, oh, this is like from that company, we should buy it. It's a little bit more expensive, but they say you should buy it. But look at all these teachings, they are really the greatest trademark. So if you want to get the trademarks of the best company, then get this trademark of the company of the Buddha. So important. We should feel happy or practicing compassion. Trademark of the teaching of the Buddha, loving kindness, bodhicitta. Imagine. Most of us can't even think about, a small kindness. But Buddha is talking about benefiting all suffering sentient beings. Imagine. Right? So So that is important. Then the next verse 43 says, understand that a small measure of amount of salt changes the taste of a small amount of water, but not that of the Ganges river. Similarly, a small sinful deed will not spoil a vast root of virtue. So that means this is encouraging the king and encouraging all of us. I mentioned this once earlier, because most of the time we keep on talking about the negative emotions. We keep on talking about how many negative emotions we have cultivated, how harmful they are, things like that. Right? So sometimes almost giving the image that you are an incorrigible person, you're a great sinner. Many people might get that kind of impression, and then they might get a little bit dejected, develop a sense of hopelessness. So here, in a very skillful way, he says, yes, we do commit negative deeds. We are not perfect. But that does not mean you are not doing anything good. So count those good things that you have also been doing. And then he says, for example, if you are somebody who has always been, again, as I said, not perfect, not necessarily perfect, but you are somebody who's always been trying your best to do all the positive practices. And then occasionally you lapse into committing certain stupid negative deeds here and there. Then he says, because you have been regularly, most of the time, you've been doing virtuous practices. The virtuous practices that you have done is expensive, right? So therefore, even if you make some error and make some mistake, commit small negative deeds here and there, that will not affect much. We give the example of like a small amount of salt. If you put small amount of salt in a small amount of water, then you can easily see that the water has become salty. But the same small amount of salt, if you put it into the ocean, its existence is nowhere. You can't make that big ocean or river salty just by putting few pinches of salt. So similarly, if you're somebody doing most of the time doing negative deeds, then occasionally you do some small good thing, it is good, but that is not going to overwhelm the negative deeds. So therefore, if possible, your virtuous practices should be much stronger than the negative deeds. Okay. So in short, what he's saying is, if you are somebody who is doing very small amount of virtuous practice and doing a lot of negative practices, then you should have fear. Don't be a fearless person, even after doing all these negative deeds. But on contrary, if you are somebody who is most of the time doing virtuous practices and a very small amount of negative deeds, then there is also no need to develop unnecessary fear. Unnecessary fear. During this pandemic, many of us have suffered because of unnecessary fear. Infodemics, as we call it. Wrong information, infodemics. Many people suffered. So therefore, again, even this experience during the pandemic shows that don't rely on infodemics. Don't rely on wrong information, which means understand the reality. That's what we have been talking about in Buddhism. Understand the reality of impermanence, shunyata, so on and so forth. So similarly, always it is important to understand the reality and not run out of false informations. Right? Then the next point is, especially when you engage in such Dharma practice, it is important to eliminate the 5 obscurations. Be aware that these 5 obscurations are thieves, which steal the wealth of virtue. And what are these obscurations? Okay, I differ with the translation. So my translation will be excitement, regret, harmful intention or thoughts, and mental torpor. I use the word torpor, T-O-R-P-O-R, torpor, and then sleep, and then desire toward sensual objects, and doubt. So these 5 obscurations are the thieves that would steal your virtuous practices. So actually what he has counted is much more than 5, right? So when we say 5 obscurations, then the first and second, which is excitement and regret, they're counted as 1, because both are obscurations. Then second is harmful intention. Then third, and the fourth, torpor and sleep, they are counted as 1. So there is the third obscuration. And then attachment or desire towards sensual objects is the fourth. And the fifth is doubt. These are called 5 obscurations because this obscures the path that leads to higher concentration and path that leads to liberation. Now the first and second, the mental excitement and regret are counted as 1 obscuration because they have the similar nature of fluctuation, and also they have this basically because of the fluctuation. Okay, because both the excitement and regret, they have this fluctuating nature. And then mental torpor and sleepiness, they are counted as 1 because of their kind of foolishness or their kind of stupidity. Okay, so these are tips. So identify these tips. Next time if they are coming, just as we deal with the actual human thieves, so similarly see them as thieves. And don't let them enter your house of your mind. Meaning that when you develop these 5 obscurations, then in different forms, different situations, they will destroy your virtuous practices. For example, you want to sleep and you postpone your practice. You want to enjoy, go for a picnic, postpone your practice. You know, here, like when we say excitement, it comes within the fold of attachment. You develop that feeling of excited to different sensual objects and things like that. Then you run after that, right? So here, when we say regret obviously refers to if after having done a virtuous practice, it is something that you must rejoice. But instead of rejoicing, if you regret, oh, I made a mistake. I went to listen to Geshe Lhakdor's teaching. Instead, I should have gone to that nice, restaurant. If I'm right now in the restaurant, I may be eating a delicious momo. So why I'm listening to this? So something like that, right? Now, it is when you develop this mental torpor, which is something like unclarity of the mind, then that becomes a cause for your mental sinking, mental dullness, so much so that you may even go into sleep. So mental torpor acts as a cause for your sleep. So in this case, what is really important is whether our mind is clear or not is also dependent upon our day-to-day life's habits and behaviors. Sometimes we just go after many stupid things and don't nourish your body, don't give enough sleep, and then next day your mind is not clear, right? So our behavior is very, very important to maintain the clarity of the mind. The more you engage in polluting, contaminating activities, the mind will also become dull and very clever in doing the negative deeds, right? So in whichever direction you train the mind will move into that direction. If you delight in killing and start killing, then gradually you will rejoice because there will be many who say, oh, you're a brave person, you're a hero. You killed 5, oh, you must kill 10 now. Then they will give you some medals that you are a captain or general or things like that, because this is the way we fool each other. So, and similarly, including mental excitement, all types of mental distraction should be stopped if possible, otherwise should be lessened. Distraction, 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 distraction. You remember what I said earlier, the discussion that happened with the teacher and the student? The teacher asked the student, are you studying? Are you practicing? He said, yes. Then he said, don't lie, because I saw you sleeping in the night and I saw you getting distracted the whole day. So when do you find time to practice? So that's why I also told you, if you remember, do some kind of spiritual budgeting. With our monthly income, we make a budget. This much money I should spend, this much I should put in the bank, whatever. You make a proper planning when it comes to using the money. But when it comes to your spiritual practice, there is no plan. Forget about 5-year plan, 10-year plan. There's not even 1 day's plan. And somehow somebody encourages you for a moment, you might do something. And then, from your own side, you don't have a plan. The most important thing, you don't have a plan. So make a plan that this I will do in the morning, depending upon your schedule. Commit some time. This I will do in the morning. This I'll do in the night. This I'll do in the midday. This is how I speak to other people. This will be how I physically, act towards others. So make sure you are physically, verbally, mentally, you become a person which is meaningful to behold. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they are called meaningful to behold. Whenever they see the Buddha, without any rhyme and reason, they feel so happy. And we know this by seeing His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you see. And that state of meaningful to behold comes, one, because of your genuine love and compassion to other people. And then you're living the life of their genuine love and compassion. People can sense it. Even dogs can sense it. It's interesting, It's really interesting. Right? So you should transform your life in such a way that when people see you, they feel happy. Not that they get threatened, get suspicious. No. And pray that whoever sees me become happy. I mean, amazing. So you don't have to become a Hollywood actor or Bollywood actress or things like that. You don't need to do any special, huge advertisement and things like that. People will flock to you if you lead a life of integrity, life of genuineness, life without duplicity. People will come to you. Just like the bees gathering on the beautiful flower. So you can see if you make some commitment, do something, we can all
make our life meaningful. And this is not a small achievement. If you're able to do that, this is probably the greatest achievement of human life, which we all have the capacity to do. Right? So don't get distracted in general, especially when you're doing some spiritual practice, don't get distracted. If you're doing, say, 10 minutes prayer, at least make a commitment that during this 10 minutes, I will visualize Avalokiteshvara. I will chant the mantra properly. Your mind will be fully into that. Then you will enjoy. You will reap the benefit. You will feel the vibration. But if we do that kind of half-hearted, which is our way of doing things in a half-hearted way, for the sake of counting or whatever, your guru has told you or somebody has told you, or if you yourself thought I should do, then in a half-hearted way you go there and see it. It is there for counting, but it will not make much impact on your mind, on your life. 10 minutes, even if it is 10 minutes, do it properly. Do it properly. And you can then feel it. You can feel it. And that leaves an imprint when you concentrate and fully go into that practice. That leaves imprint on your subtle consciousness. And the practice that we are doing is not for long life and happiness only in this life, but for many, many lives to come. And what goes to many, many lives is not the body, not even the grosser level of consciousness. It is the subtle level of the mind, subtle consciousness. So when we do practice, therefore we talk about the need to do mindfulness practice, need to do meditation and so forth, so that we are able to leave an imprint on the subtlemost consciousness, if possible, or at least subtle consciousness. Because it is this subtle consciousness which carries that habit, carries that imprint and go to the next life. Those other practices which did not leave any imprint on the subtle consciousness, then the effect will be very, very minor, very minor. Leaving an imprint on the mind, subtle mind, transforming that subtle mind, which is really the king of our whole existence, the source of all our energy. That must be touched, that must be transformed. So for that, we need to do concentrated, wholehearted practice. Normally, we are unable to do that. A clear, indication is even if you do 10 minutes meditation, then you recite few verses, then you get distracted, then you need to do that again from the start. So some people, even a short prayer, they are unable to finish. They just keep on, repeating again and again, not completing even one round, because we are getting distracted. The other day, I told you that in the case of a person who is suffering from very severe chronic illness, to cure that chronic illness, 1 or 2 tablets of medicine will not help. That patient needs sustained medication, sustained treatment, sometimes even surgery, operation. Then it will help. So in our case also, sometimes sustained practice, of course, sometimes some kind of surgery also, some kind of revolution also. The whole thing has to change, because change is not easy. Because we human beings have this habit of, getting stuck with whatever we are familiar with. Good, bad, that is not the question. Because I know this, so this is the most important thing. So therefore, if you sit with somebody, everybody has something to say. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. This is the. Yeah, I know. This So everybody tries to prove the point that I'm the right one. You see. And the reason is we get stuck in the same die-hard habit. We're not able to come out. So it's important to come out. So therefore, it's important to make a proper planning, whatever practice you are doing. And then the more and more you get used with that practice, then you can prolong. the duration of that meditation, prolong the duration of that prayer and whatever, right? So if you want to do some very good genuine practice, then your food also makes some difference. In the case of a meditator, if you are living in a very cool place, then you need to rely on those food which will give you more warmth and heat in the body. If you are living in a very hot place, then you need to take substances which will give more coolness than heat. Like for example, I mean, not only meditation, but our health also. Like people who live in very hot climate, like New Delhi or Madras and things like that, still consuming meat after meat, Very stupid. Then you see all these pimples, coming on the face, boils coming on the body because of too much heat, right? So therefore, you should, what the main point that is being said here is, when it comes to doing that virtuous practice, prepare from all sides. The motivation should be good, actual practice should be good, calculation should be good, the preparation should be good, the environment should be good, the food should be suitable, the friends surrounding you should be not disturbing. Because we are very ordinary people, we can easily be distracted by people, with their very attractive place, invitation, you can be taken into all directions. So therefore the Buddha said, don't let your mind become like a feather of the bird or a small piece of cotton, which can be blown into all different directions with a slight blow of wind. So our mind is like that, it is blown in all kind of directions. So we need to develop some kind of stability, some kind of integrity, some kind of confidence must be there, right? That's important. Verse number 45, rather, 45. Verse number 45 is saying that now when you engage into this stage by stage practice, next verse is talking about how to cultivate the path of preparation and so forth. Assiduously perform the 5 most excellent practices: faith, effort, mindfulness, meditative stabilization, and wisdom. 5. You must strive in cultivating these 5. Now these are called strength, power, and also the attained summit, depending upon various levels of the second path, the path of accumulation. So during the path of accumulation, was path of preparation, the second path of preparation. Anyway, second path, I'm not so sure. path of joining, I think it's better, path of joining, the second path. So there are these 5 qualities that we are talking about. So depending upon the level, the 4 levels of the second path, it can be called as strength, it can be called as power, it can be called as the summit, and things like that, depending on which level you are. Now these 5 practices, when they become the direct cause for the path of seeing, the path of becoming a superior being or Arya, then this is called supreme Dharma, supreme Dharma. And during the level called forbearance, then you've reached a state that, in other words, the second path is classified into 4 levels: heat, peak, forbearance, and supreme Dharma or supreme quality. Okay, so when these 5 practices become the actual cause for actualizing the path of seeing, then this is called supreme Dharma or supreme quality. And during the 3rd level, which is called forbearance, during that level, when you reach that level, then the opposite forces, negative forces, cannot trample the virtuous practices. Therefore, they are called power. During the level called heat, then you have developed this power to realize the truth. So therefore, this is called power or control. And when you further develop this practice, then you reach a summit, a peak, which will be least disturbed by the negative practices. In other words, the foundation, the root of the virtuous practice will be least disturbed. So therefore, that level is called peak. Okay. So this is explained in Matthias' ornament of realization also. Now, in other words, faith is extremely important. We discussed about this earlier. There are many types of faith, but here in this case, it's talking about a faith that is based on reason and knowledge and understanding. Because if you don't have the faith, it's very unlikely that you can make any effort. There is a difference between faith and liking. You may like your parents. That is liking. We cannot, sometimes English word we may use, I have faith in my parents, but here in the Buddhist context, when we say faith, is different from liking. Faith is towards law of causality. Faith is towards Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So towards Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, towards law of causality, it's faith and also liking. But the liking that you develop towards your relatives and brothers, sisters, that is called liking, but not faith, actually. This is understood here. So faith based on reason is so important, right? Without faith, you cannot develop, or it's very difficult to develop any virtuous practice. Just like a burnt seed. A burnt seed cannot produce any sprout, any green shoots. Faith is the quality which makes your mind clear. It removes the mental turbidity, right? So faith, therefore, is very, very important. Then with that faith, you make effort. Without making effort, forget about achieving higher spiritual realizations. Even in our day-to-day lives, needs will not achieve anything if you just keep on sleeping or remain lazy. I once read a story of 3 lazy men who were traveling, and then they get very tired and sleeps under a big jamun tree. And it said that these three people were so lazy. When they were all sleeping, a dog comes and licks the mouth of one lazy fellow. And he says, "This dog is licking my mouth. Please drive them away." He himself is not driving that away. And then the other lazy fellow looks at the jamun tree and says, "Oh, the jamun fruits, they look so good. Please fell into my mouth." Things like that, you know. So unless you make an attempt, nothing can be achieved. And effort is basically delighting in what you're doing. So therefore, effort is, of course, very important. Then mindfulness, we'll talk more about mindfulness later on, because not only Dharma practice, but in our day-to-day life practice also, if you don't, maintain your mindfulness, you will forget everything. And then the thieves that we have already explained, they will come and steal everything. And you will have no idea what you have lost also. Right? We do some, study, do some practice, and then after a while, after a few years, we have no idea what we have studied. Many times we say, "Oh, I've studied this text, 5 years before, 10 years before." So now if we ask, what do you remember? So nothing. Because there was no mindfulness. There was no mindfulness. So mindfulness, of course, is very important. Then concentration, as I said, is very important. Concentration is basically pulling all your energy together. I give you the example of laser beam. The rays of the light of the laser beam, when it is scattered, it cannot cut through steel. But when the rays of the light of the laser beam are collected, it can cut through the steel. And I think it was Plato who said, concentration is the source of success, both in war and in peace, which is true. If you concentrate, you can achieve anything. If you enjoy, you can achieve anything. So these are so important, all this, faith, clarity of the mind, effort, liking to do something, and then remembering what you need to do, and then concentration, right? Then also analyzing. The next one is wisdom. So these are your, contrary to the thieves, remember the thieves and don't let them come. These are your best friends. These 5 are your best friends. Make a list, my best friends, faith, things like that. Welcome them, personify them, personify these negative deeds, banish them, personify these positive deeds, welcome them. You can draw nice, if you are a good illustrator or good artist, you can draw wisdom in one form, faith in another form, with beautiful Tibetan costumes or whatever costumes, just for you to remember, right? That's important. Okay, so I stop here again. Couldn't finish much.
Yes, so Geshe
Yeah.
Now we'll take some questions. Natasha, you can go ahead, and then we'll have Jackie.
Thank you very much, Sheila. So our first question is.
I can't hear. I can't hear.
You hear me? Can you
Yeah.
hear me now?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good. Thank you. So first of all, the person says, thank you very much for your teachings.
Mm.
And then the question is, His Holiness often says, do not lose courage when you are in difficult situations. Hope for the better. So if we hope for better, our hope may not come true. When then what is the point in being hopeful?
When we say hopeful, we are not talking about hopeful in just in one thing. Okay, we are not talking about trying to achieve something which is impossible. There may be things which is not achievable, but there are many other things which is achievable. The problem with us is, as I told you, as I have given you the example earlier, we are like small kids asking just for lollipop, I need only lollipop, nothing else. Mama, I need lollipop, nothing else. Mama, I need lollipop, nothing else. Only that. Then kicking and crying, yelling, we are like that. Okay, so don't be like that. When we talk about hope and courage, maintaining hope and courage, we are talking about maintaining hope and courage in many, many other areas, many, many positive areas. Even in the case of a person who has lost one eye or lost one hand, then don't just concentrate about this missing part, but think about the one hand that you have, the one eye you have, and compare it to those many people who don't have even one eye, don't have even one hand. There are many, I'm not exaggerating, okay? And then, as I told you earlier, all of us individually are completely different. Different means we all have special capacity which no other people have. It's only if you realize that you have. Don't think that you are not educated, you never studied. Don't calculate or judge in that way. But just realize the fact that you are a human being. And it is a fact that each and every human being, he, she, whoever we are, all of us have different talents. So use those talents. And losing courage and hope, in fact, doesn't help you at all. It will, destroy your life further. So therefore, it is important to maintain a little bit larger perspective. Don't just ask for lollipop only, okay?
Thank you, Geshe. And the next question is from Dinara. First of all, she asks you to continue your wonderful teachings because they are very, very useful and very beneficial for us. And then she says, I'm a perfectionist. I try to do everything the best way I can, and I get upset when it doesn't work out. This is, and sometimes create inconvenience. So I bring it to my Buddhist practice as well. I often think that I could have done some practice better and I get upset. But in the Buddhism, we are talking about the joyful effort. And I cannot apply this joyful effort. Is there a mistake here?
Yeah, the very meaning of perfection is very, very illusory. What do you mean by perfection? The thing that you thought is perfect, other people may not see it as perfect, you see. So unless you put a limit somewhere, and especially what you're doing is led by some kind of greed, sense of egoism, thinking that I have to perfect, I'm the best. Take the example of Olympian, who's very good in Olympics. And many people might think, oh, he's perfect. What do you mean by perfect? Still, there are a lot of room for progress, During every Olympic, we always get new people who are breaking the record of the previous Olympians, you see. So that means the previous one was not perfect, right? So therefore, don't this word is not good. Don't kill yourself. I mean to say, don't kill yourself by, putting too much pressure on yourself. Okay. So all of us have this capacity to achieve and do many good things. When you're able to do that, that is enough. That's enough. And then like it. And then, as I said, again, there are many people who may not be able to do what you're doing. So in that sense, you're perfect. From those point of view, you're perfect. You're wonderful. There's no challenger or whatever. Right? Then also, one thing that I remember His Holiness, repeatedly used to say is, like in a race competition, you should run as much as possible to get number one. But while doing so, don't try to push the other competitor. If you do that, then you're wrong. So likewise, whatever so-called perfection you're trying to achieve, don't do it with a sense to compete others, comparing to this, I'm better. Don't do this. Or even if you want to do that, in that process, don't develop any negative feeling, to harm that other person, things like that. Then you are perfect. And as we always say that beauty lies in the beholder, eye of the beholder, you see. right? I mean, take the example of a marriage. I've given you this example many times because people easily understand in that context. After marriage, the husband thinks I got the perfect wife. The wife thinks I got the perfect husband. But that is from their parlance. So it's okay, perfect from their parlance. It doesn't have to be perfect in the parlance of everybody. Okay, so while you should always give room for improvement if it is possible, but don't just keep on finding fault all the time. I mean, with yourself, for example, you are a perfect human being. Perfect human being means not in sense of having achieved omniscience and things like that, but perfect human being means you have 2 eyes intact, mouth intact, nose intact. So be satisfied with that. Without being satisfied with that, if you compare yourself others, oh, my nose is a little bit crooked, it should be a little bit longer, my eye is a little bit large. If you keep on highlighting the fault, you can always find a fault, right? So it's really like balancing your thinking, and should be happy with whatever you're able to do. This is like small
Thank
kid.
you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So thank you, Natasha and Vishla. Jackie.
Hello. I was hoping, thank you for your teaching. I was hoping last week at the very end you mentioned the 4 concentrations, but could you please give some more detail?
Mm-hmm. 4 concentrations. I say the Nagarjuna master passed you this comment about the 4 concentrations. Which is basically, I mean, very easy actually. Just for counting, it's very easy. First concentration, second concentration, third concentration, fourth concentration. So which basically means when you move from a lower level of concentration to higher level of concentration, then you see, some of the faults on the lower level, and then see some of the qualities on the higher level. Then by appreciating that, you try to achieve the higher level. So here in this case, they say the joy, some kind of happiness in enjoying the sensual objects. That's what we have in the desire realm, right? The desire realm is so called because we are obsessed with the sensual objects. So when you see fault in that engrossment in the sensual objects, and when you eliminate that, then you move into the first concentration. But still there is the grosser process of investigation, analysis, which are sometimes very distracting. And when you remove that, then you go into the second concentration. But still you have not eliminated the experience of joy. And when you even remove that experience of joy, then you move into the third concentration. And then finally, when you remove that experience of happiness and experience of suffering, then you move into the fourth concentration. So roughly speaking, it's like that. But they are a little bit complicated because these are something that we don't relate in our day-to-day life. But it is basically showing that how when we gradually remove the grosser level of negative emotions, we'll move into the higher and higher spiritual levels. Okay. This way.
Sorry, I was unmuted. Sorry. So are these what they refer to as the jhanas?
Huh?
Are these the jhanas, the 4 concentrations? Is that what the jhanas are?
What?
The jhanas are the 4 concentrations the jhanas?
Dhyanas, yeah. Dhyanas, yes.
Oh,
For dhyanas, we call it, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Kishla. Kishla, this one last request from one of our friends here, if you have time. Kishla, since we end our each of our sessions with the 6-syllable mantra, Avalokiteshvara mantra. So one of us, his name is Sonam Ritson. He's requested if Kishla can briefly explain the meaning of that mantra for the benefit of everyone here and also on Facebook.
Good.
Yes.
Now, when you do any tantric chanting, then we have this word Om, which probably again came from the Hindu tradition, probably, because Buddhism had such a close connection with Hinduism in the beginning. And the Buddha had many Hindu teachers also at that time, many Hindu sages also. And then later on, of course, he made modifications and found his own path through meditation and so forth. So this word Om is a combination of 3 letters, A, O, Ma. So these 3 letters symbolizes your body, speech, and mind. Okay. Now, when you do Dharma practice, the purpose of your doing Dharma practice is to purify your body, speech, and mind. So in other words, the word Om has 2 levels of meaning. One refers to our ordinary body, speech, and mind. The second, the exalted body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. Now, when we do practice, the purpose is to refine or to purify our ordinary body, speech, and mind and make it become the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. That means to become the Buddha, right? So Om Mani Padme Hum, the last one, Hum means to become one, indivisible. That means the purpose of your practice is to transform you and then gradually become Hum, which means become the Buddha. How are you going to do that? You are going to do that through Mani and Padme. That means through the twin practice of method and wisdom. Mani means jewel, gems. Just like the precious gems fulfills the needs of people and remove the poverty, right? So similarly, through skillful means like development of loving kindness, compassion, and so forth, it will also remove our inner poverty. But that must be supported by Padme, the unpolluted wisdom. So in other words, that the complete teaching of the Buddha can be summarized into this twin practice of development of good heart and good head, good knowledge. So it's a very profound mantra, very profound mantra. So that's why we say the 84,000 classes of teaching can be subsumed or, found in this 6-syllable mantra. And some people say Om Mani Padme Hum Re. 3 is, I don't know when this 3 came in, but if you put 3, then it is not 6-syllable mantra, it's 7-syllable mantra. So normally we say 6-syllable mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay.
So thank you so much, Tuchichena.
Okay.
We're really grateful for this teachings, Kishla. And we truly very joyfully and delightfully look forward to these sessions, Kishla. Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm sure all of you, just like me, are returning, with a happier heart, with a little more healed heart and hope, really, and some teachings to take home to our loved ones and to ourselves. So such a joy. Thank you so much, Kishla. Thank you, everybody. And with that, we will move on to our prayers now. And with the added explanation, I think we all have strengthened conviction in the mantra now. So let us all pray. Thank you.
Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. Omane peme, 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 omane peme. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. Omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme, omane peme. 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 Omane peme hon gewandi yuto da chere se wantu jo. Rawa che jamba le parte sala go bara sho. Thank you.